Now, one much discussed element of the Chinese Communist Party's recently wrapped up third plenum or general meeting was a proposal to abolish the much criticised re-education through labour system, or Laojiao as it's called in Chinese. Laojiao was introduced in the 1950s by Maozedong to deal at the time with class enemies and political rivals, imagined or otherwise. It gradually evolved into a system which handled those accused of minor criminal acts or anyone considered troublesome. It really allows police to sentence ordinary citizens to up to 4 years in work camps without having to go through the inconvenience of evidence, a trial or judicial interference. While many inmates are petty criminals and drug dealers, it's also used to deal with petitioners. Those are the people who embarrass local authorities by highlighting injustice at higher levels of government, and also those who cross that invisible red line of criticism of either the party or the government. However, a number of recent cases of gross abuse of the system have sparked a public outcry. The proposal contained in the third plenum document was short on detail. It said nothing about how re-education through labour as a system might be dismantled, nor did it say what might replace it or how those currently in the system would be handled. Online discussion of the proposal to abolish Laojiao has been animated, to say the least. So to get an idea of what's being said, let's now join our researcher Esther Dung in the newsroom. Now, Esther, Laojiao, re-education through labour, is certainly not the most popular element of China's justice system, I think it's fair to say. So I guess the proposal to dismantle it was a no-brainer for the party policy people. Apart from perhaps a few hardliners and those actually employed by the system, few people are going to shed tears over it, are they?
Well, that's generally right, of course. The majority of net users are quite happy to hear about the plan, and comments like abolishing the re-education through labor system is a huge step forward in our human rights progress are very common. But I've also seen some net users who aren't quite so quick to cheer about this, or at least see some downside to it. And here is a poster on 163.com. These re-education through labor centers aren't as horrible as many people think. I admit some people inside are innocent and some are petitioners, but that's just a small number. The majority inside are drug takers, people who've assaulted others, or those guilty of antisocial behavior. And this poster, Chen Zhonglin, has this concern. Without the Laojiao centers, how will we deal with those whose behavior disrupts the normal functioning of our society, but whose acts are not serious enough to be criminal?
Okay, calls for the abolition of this system are nothing recent. In fact, there have been rumblings about it going back decades, but nothing ever happened and it just remained as it was. Why do net users think that the party has decided now at this stage to come out so clearly and say that it's gone?
Well, as you said, lots of recent cases of abuse of the system were reported in Chinese media. These have aroused a huge public anger, and many posters guess the authorities finally realized the strength of the feelings out there and decided it was time to act. And I've seen two names repeated by posters many times. The first, a person, is mentioned in this comment, which says simply, we should thank Tanghui. Well, Tanghui is the mother of a young daughter who was abducted and raped by a group of men. Tang was sent to Laojiao for repeatedly petitioning for harsher sentences for her daughter's attackers. Essentially, she was silenced to stop her causing trouble for the local police. Her case got huge media attention after her lawyer managed to publicize it on social media. Tang was eventually released, and Laojiao and how it was abused came under the public spotlight. And another name, a place this time, is the one in this comment. Well, Sanjia certainly contributed a lot to this. Sanjia is the name of Laojiao camp in Liaoning province near the capital Shenyang. Back in April, a Chinese magazine described horrific conditions and brutal treatment endured by those held there. The report was soon deleted and claims of torture and cruelty at the camp denied. However, the article and other reports of abuse at the camp made the name notorious. It also raised the profile of the Laojiao issue in the public mind. In fact, it's since been reported, though not confirmed, that Sanjia itself has now been closed down.
Now, as I mentioned, the proposals that we saw didn't go into details as to how this will all work, what happens to the thousands of people currently serving time in the Laojiao system. Is this lack of practical information of any concern?
Well, sure. I've seen lots of posters who wonder about this. And I've also seen calls from lawyers or legal experts who say laws will have to be drafted to deal with this. For example, Xu Liping, a lawyer, has this to say on the Oriental Morning Post newspaper. Although they may have announced the abolition of the Laojiao system, in the legal sense, it's not. We still need the National People's Congress to go through the procedures and frame laws.
Okay, finally, Esther, however vague the proposal and whatever about the need for legal acts, as that poster mentioned, it seems some changes, whether cosmetic or not, are already being reported as being implemented, right?
Oh, sure, although just how far they go is a question. But the Chinese media have been widely reporting examples of Laojiao camps being either converted to other purposes or of prisoners being freed. For example, in Xishuangbanna in Yunnan province, a Laojiao camp has been converted to a drug rehabilitation center. In Beijing, another camp has reportedly become a detention center. Meanwhile, in two cities, Shanghai and Changsha, authorities have announced that all those being detained in the local Laojiao camps have been set free. And finally, I will wrap up with this comment, which shows the two sides of the argument over dismantling Laojiao, the all at once or the gradual approach. Some think the system violates Chinese citizens' right of personal freedom, so it must be abolished immediately, while some others think it's simply too difficult and impractical to get rid of a decades-old system in one go and overnight.
Okay, thanks for that, Esther. And that was China Take researcher Esther Dong with some online reaction to the announcement of the abolition of that infamous penal system, the Laojiao or Reeducation through labour system. Next up on China Take, some of the top trending phrases on China's most popular search engines.